Okay, now right after the content points tips, we are starting the summary writing tips. Why we are doing summary writing tips right after the content points? Because this is a very next question. In your reading, which is the paper 2 in English language 1123, reading is the paper 2. In the reading, there are two passages. Passage 1 has the first question, which is the content points writing, which you have already done. And once you have taken out the 12 or more than 12 content points, now you have to use these 12 or more than 12 content points to write a summary of the same passage. And what are the tips to write an appropriate summary? Let's go ahead. Let's see. For summary writing, the tips are: tip number 1, cover up all the content points in your summary. See, if you have taken 12 content points, you must use those 12 content points into your summary. If you have taken 16, 17, 18 content points, how so many ever content points you have taken, you have to use all those content points in your summary writing. Tip number 2 says, paraphrase the content points and all other information that you have taken from the passage and write your summary in your own words. Now, this is very, very important. This is very important. When you're writing the content points, when you're writing the summary, whatever the content points you have taken, before using those content points into summary, paraphrase them, change them in your own words. Change them in your own words before putting them into a summary. Okay? Yes, when you are writing the content points, you don't have to change the content points in your own words. You have to pick as it is words from the passage when you're writing the content points. But when you're using those content points into your summary, you must paraphrase those content points and then use them into your summary, number 1. And all other information that you have taken from the passage, except the fact and figures, for example 1993 or some number like 22,000 or 2,500 people died, something like, you can't change them in your own words, but some other information can be changed into your own words. I mean, at least can be paraphrased. Tip number 3, examples, distractors, elaborators, or any extra information shall not be taken as a part of summary. See, if in the passage the writer has written, for example, for instance, or writer has given some extra information to elaborate the passage, you do not have to take that extra information and examples into your summary, because that was extra information to distract you. So we never take the elaboration into the summary because that was unnecessary information, right? We will never take that unnecessary or extra information into our summary. Tip number 4 says, important information should be underlined in the passage and written in the proper sequence in the summary. Okay, when you were reading the passage for taking out the content points, so when you were reading the passage, you are advised to underline the important information. You are basically the content points which you have been underlining. The content points is the basically main information or the key point of the passage. So the important information that you have underlined, you have to write in a proper sequence in your summary, summarizing not all the points, taking the whole points and summarizing them into a small sentence and writing into the summary. Tip number 5 says, it should be written within a word limit. And what is the word limit of a summary writing in O-level English? 160 to 180 words. It should not be less than 160 words, should not be more than 180 words. Acha, less than 160 words means if it is 140, 150, it is okay, not that big problem. If it is 190 or 200, it is still okay. But if it is 120 or 100 words, it is a problem. If it is 250, 220, 230, it is a problem. So try to be within the word limit. The tip number 6 says, it means the summary should be written in 1 or maximum 2 paragraphs, mostly in 1 paragraph. Summary should be written in 1 paragraph. Sometime it is written in 2 paragraphs. Why? Because if there is a topic on which you are talking about two different things, then you might write your summary into 2 paragraphs. But in normal cases, I mean in 90% you will see you have to write the all using all the content points your summary in within one paragraph. But very rarely you will find the summary into two paragraphs, right? And summary should be into a continuous form, using transitional words. You know the transition words, discourse marker, which I have even shared with you in class 8, and I might have shared in class 9. If not, then I will be sharing with you now the transition words, which are used to connect two sentences, three sentences into one, to join the sentences and to give it a beautiful effect. We use discourse marker, and discourse marker are also called transition words. I'm sorry, I cannot take any questions. Some of the students are writing in the chat box and some of the students are raising their hands. Once I have started explanation, I will not be taking your questions. So please, if you have any question at the end of the explanation, you can raise your hand and you can ask. I must be responding or answering to your questions. But please, during the explanation, do not write anything into the chat box. Do not ask me any question. Do not raise your hand. Just let it be continued. Once it is finished, then I'll be answering your questions. Now the tip number 7 says, do not change the tense while writing summary. Okay, this is also very important. When you're writing the summary, let's suppose it from the passage, you have underlined and you have taken one content point, and that content point was in present simple tense. So when you're writing summary, do not change into future or past or in any other tense. Whatever the tense has been used in the passage, when you're writing the summary, the tense will remain same. You cannot change the tense. Do remember this. You cannot change the tense while writing the summary. Whatever the tense has been used into the passage, you have to use the same tense. Now the tip number 8 says, do not use reported speech in the summary. For example, in the passage you found some inverted commas, some reported speech written in the inverted commas in the main passage, and you think that is the important information to add in the summary. Okay, you can add, but when you're adding that reported speech which is with the inverted commas, when you're adding it, when you're taking it in your summary, remove the reported speech, remove the inverted commas, and write into a normal speech, write into a direct speech rather than writing into indirect speech. Do not write no, I'm sorry, write into indirect speech. Do not write the direct speech. Do not write the reported speech. Do not write the inverted commas and all that. Now the tip number 9, do not begin your summary something like writer says that dot 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 dot. Most of the time we have seen the student says in this passage the writer wants to say that no, this is not a proper start. Rather start summarizing the key points in the line in the first paragraph. Whatever the key points, whatever the content points that you have taken from paragraph number 1, start discussing about them. And for you, it is, for O-level student, it is very easy to start, because the starting line is given by the examiner. So this is an advantage for the student of O-level English, that sometimes they're confused how they should start their summary. What should be the first line? For them, it is easy. It is good news that the writer gives you one line. The starting line is given by the examiner, and then you have to continue that line to write your summary. So that's a good news. Now the tip number 10 says, use maximum connectors, conjunctions, discourse markers to make your summary look precise and to the point. Okay, this means that in order to avoid using and then and then, so instead of using only these words and then, you can use so many other connectors, so many other conjunctions, so many other discourse markers, the transition words. There are so many transition words except or beside and then, because if you're using only and then, it might not look, because it will be a repetition of one or two words. So try not to repeat the words again and again. Try to use every time different words. Repetition also does not give a beauty to your writing. So try not to use or try not to repeat the words. Try to use different words and try to use more and more discourse marker to give a connective, a coherent summary. Yes, best of luck. This was all about the summary writing tips from my side.